Hello, everybody. I don't know if anybody's up, but I am. What is going on around here? This is UCLA stuff going on here. Um, let's check this out. Oh, hold on. I gotta turn off notifications. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, it's not just here, it's been everywhere. So let's watch this here real quick. Okay, hold on.
11 o'clock, we do begin Good Night LA with breaking news. This is a live picture of the scene on the campus of UCLA in Westwood, UCLA. And you can see a little bit of a more chaotic scene as people are apparently taking down the barriers that security officers put up earlier.
Right now, we are.
Go ahead, Chelsea
pepper
Edwards
spray
is
coming
there
into our
live.
throats. This is just happening here on the UCLA campus. We are watching as this encampment is being torn down. We've had a lot of people coming in. Oh, just getting into IFB here. Sorry, developing situation here, trying to get our bearings. So we had a group.
If you can hear me, I want to get you safe and make sure you are safe and you can get your bearings. We have this live picture. I understand. You can see all that spray. It looks, and a fight's breaking out right now, right there. Okay, Chelsea, are you okay?
Thank you.
We got one.
Oh, pepper spray in
Look
our
at
eyes.
this
Wow.
stuff.
Very strong. I'm here with our security. Changing rapidly. So these people came in, they're wearing all black. They've got masks on, white and black masks, and they came in to tear down the barriers that have been separating these two sides. Now,
this is sad, you guys. So I got some things queued up for us. CNN's live. We're gonna look at that here real quick. I know I have missed you. I know a lot of people aren't getting notifications for nothing. No, I was gone for like a couple weeks. I'm sure you don't know this. I got some things going on. Other things I can't talk about right now, but I'm getting further testing for lung cancer. Graduations are being canceled. This is sad. Sad.
oh, I'm sorry, I've got to get out of here.
Oh gosh, let's Chelsea and crew, you need to get out of there right now. Your safety is paramount, so you need to get to safety. You need to get looked at. It sounds like by emergency crews. You just got pepper sprayed. So what we're being told is that the campus security, and now we're seeing these flares, and it looks like a fire is going to erupt as well. So campus security, apparently, oh my goodness, that was a firecracker. A very dangerous scene live right now on Good Night LA. Our crew, obviously in the thick of it. We want to make sure our crew is safe as we're bringing you these live images of just utter chaos breaking out on the campus of UCLA in Westwood right now.
Now at 11, chaos across the country tonight. Dozens arrested at Columbia University in New York, while tensions increase at UCLA and USC. Good evening. I'm Micah Ullman.
And I'm Cher Calvin. College campuses in crisis as protesters and police face off amid escalating tensions.
The battle between free speech and safety concerns now reaching a fever pitch. At Columbia University in New York, police officers in riot gear entered a campus building, arresting dozens of protesters. And back here at home at UCLA and USC, clashes have broken out between pro-Palestinian and pro-Israeli demonstrators, prompting increased security and threats of disciplinary action.
We have team coverage of the student protests and the response by schools and the police.
This stuff really gets to me. Okay, protesting, The way they're doing it is wrong. And if it's a Palestinians against the Israels, go do it in your country. Okay? I said it. Why are you on U.S. soil doing this? Just saying. Okay, let's go to CNN. They're live. Let's see, where is it? I think this one's it right here. Is this it? Yeah. CNN's live, so we're going to start.
Oh, look at that! Somebody just took a pallet to the head.
Wow.
That was really, really bad. You're right. The plyboard, the plywood, excuse me, the boards of plywood are moving up. They've been dislodged from that makeshift wall where they were set up with tripods almost, and now you can see them manually being moved up into the crowd of counter protesters, and you're seeing these scuffles break out one after another. Lots of very heavy sticks, very heavy barricades, scooters, all types of things being employed to inflict harm on the other side here. And so it's just what you're seeing here is just an overload of testosterone that is just peaking at this moment. Whereas these two sides come together, there is just an animalistic side of human nature that just allows for this type of violence when tensions are this high, and it's just a natural progression of what we've seen here.
Well, I tell you, the way they're
That's right.
oh, at least they're
That's
smart.
exactly right. So what happens, just a hypothetical question, what happens when somebody tries to break into one of these administrative buildings or one of these classroom buildings, just like we saw across the country tonight? What happens if a group of these protesters decides to occupy the building? These are the things that are foreseeable and what's being done, right? The question is, what's being done? Do you just let this go on night after night? Or as Tim Pulliam said, is this finally the end of this encampment, which I think a lot of parents who have students at this university probably would say it never should have gotten this big in the first place. But far be it from us to judge. That's not our job. You could just see what has transpired and where this has ultimately led to. Right. Unbelievable. Yeah.
Do they got
The wall is gone, Mark.
What's that?
Take a look at that. Take a look at that shot right there. That's where the wall was built earlier this week and has stood fast the entire week. They've been dislodged from whatever was holding them up, and they've now been manually pushed onto that lawn on the west side, on the top, near the top part of your screen, where all of the pro-Israeli protesters were screaming earlier. Now you can see their territory, so to speak, is being pushed upon by the pro-Palestinian side with the plywood. They're using that wall to push forward. Plywood and umbrellas being used. Even the tents are being moved. Those blue tents were about 40 or 50 feet back, and now the tents are being pushed along with the plywood. And so that seems to be what's agitating the other side the most. Is that if there was any piece earlier of on either side, with one side or either side respecting that line of delineation halfway through the quad. Look at this. Somebody is being beaten. Somebody is being beaten with a stick and punches in the middle of the lawn. Somebody is being badly beaten at the bottom of that brawl right there.
Wow.
Look at that. Look at that. Somebody is being dragged and beaten in the front of that plywood wall.
Oh no.
Where is security? Where are these people? Where is authority here? It is something I have never covered without any sign of enforcement, law enforcement, security whatsoever. This has gone now on for over an hour and a half, and it is absolutely appalling in my estimation, that we have not seen any response. I've just never seen it. This may be a sign of things to come, or this may be what society has become. But I have never seen it in my career. I have never seen this level of violence without any response
It's not
from
from
any
us.
kind of law enforcement or authority
Not from
whatsoever.
us. I'm sorry, guys. Oh my God,
Right.
that poor guy.
Yep.
Oh yes, I'm sorry. Anybody who's here, hi, how you doing?
Like a spear.
I
That's
agree
right.
with this comment here. I agree with this comment.
This of any sort, campus security. I mean, we saw a handful of black and whites pull up, maybe 40 minutes ago, something like that. Certainly not enough. I mean, I don't know how large the UCLA campus police department is, but I would imagine if they sent the entire department here tonight, it might be outnumbered by what we're seeing here, just based on the fact that we started with upwards of 300 to 400 protesters in those tents. So you've got the people in those tents, and now a large group of counter protesters that have come earlier today and been basically, I mean, for the most part, we were here earlier today, Mark. During our 6 o'clock show, we were flying over, and things were pretty peaceful. I mean, you had both sides lining the wall there, but they were respecting the boundaries, and there was no signs of violence whatsoever or even tensions, other than once you go online, you can clearly hear the loud, taunting speakers and that kind of thing. And as I've mentioned, they've been talking to each other, not only verbally here, but more on social media, on TikTok, as they live stream from either side of that makeshift wall. But for the most part, it was peaceful. It wasn't until the last 90 minutes where things have gone sideways, and now in the last half hour, where they've manually pushed up that wall, essentially moving the encampment up with tents and umbrellas and plywood and makeshift weaponry to counter the pro-Israeli protesters.
I'm sorry, guys, I was muted. This is only beginning, it'll get worse. Yeah, it's everywhere now. But this is horrible what's going on here.
You're right. Exactly.
I mean, why the violence? I don't get it. Are they hitting people?
Punches being thrown left and right, left and right. They're trying to break the wall down. They're attacking the wall. They're trying to kick down the plywood and the folks on the other side of that plywood. And you're going to see more umbrellas flying here in a second. You see another brawl breaking out, more sticks being swung, a lot more fist fights up and down the line of barricade that has been moved forward into the lawn here. It's just continuing to escalate. You could just tell. I mean, we at least had cycles of peace earlier. Now it just seems like we've been seeing just 10 minutes of nonstop violence here. Look at that. Somebody kicking the plywood, bear spray or pepper spray sprayed back, and then they fall over there. You can see that wall of plywood is now kind of evaporating. And I mean, there's really just not going to be much left between either side except for those metal barricades. And sooner or later, they're going to be gone too.
Where's the National Guard? Did somebody get beat up? Yeah, it is.
Ooh.
There goes more spray.
More. No, it's either pepper spray or bear spray. Somebody can tell me which one's yellow. I think both might be. But in any event, somebody just took a. It seemed like a couple of good squirts right to the face, and a lot. By the way, we're talking about dozens of people who have brought this spray. It's not just one or two people. There are a lot of people with cans of spray in their hands, and also you noticed that there was some more pallets being thrown over that barricade as well. So you can see some more metal barricades being used. The plywood is being put back up, but occasionally you'll see somebody try and either pull it down or kick it down. It just is escalating by the second here. Nothing about this indicates things are going to simmer down here, at least anytime soon. Show the officers. Yeah.
Wow.
Bottom, right in there, the bright light. Oh, those are the same guys as before, yeah. Those are security guards, yeah. AC, air conditioning.
Where are the cops? Another fight.
That's right. And instead of people breaking it up, they're just they're instigating even more. Nobody here is trying to break any of this up. Not even, forget law enforcement. There's basically none. There's a group of security guards with khakis on the top part of your screen. They are standing by, well away from the confrontation, just watching it play out.
Yeah, this is weird.
Beyond that, there's nobody else here.
Now they're walking away.
Of course not. That's exactly right. Of course not. Yeah, absolutely. What we are seeing, though, is that plywood wall quickly disintegrating. One by one, they're taking more of that plywood and bringing it over to the counter-protester side. So pretty soon, there's not going to be much of a shield left for the protesters on the right, who are just continuing to push forward there on the front lawn. So we're continuing to see, fist fight after fist fight. Pretty continuous now for the better part.
Okay. Okay, this is my question. What can we do, the U.S.? We didn't take the country away. Or did we? I don't know. Help me out. Help me understand.
Of the last 15 minutes. But whatever defense they had, which is really, I hate to call it defense because they're also using it as a weapon at the same time. But whatever shielding that plywood and those barricades are providing now, it's becoming less and less of a wall.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
They've pushed back a little bit. They push back a little bit towards the tents. So they push back towards the original line. But they come and go. Every time the protesters from the left side approach, they push back. The barricades move, and in this case, they've retreated again. So a little bit of a lull finally for the first time in the last 10 minutes. So you don't see anybody in that gap there. No sign of confrontation at the moment. A little lull, which again has been pretty consistent throughout the evening. Throughout the evening, where you get these cycles of violence and then a lull in the action. People regroup, they retreat, they regroup, and then they come back again. They try and take some more plywood. They try and tear down some umbrellas. They come back with more spray, and the cycle continues.
Yeah, we don't see, we hardly see stuff like this. US citizens, Americans, whatever. I've never seen stuff like this before. Britain gave away land that Palestine claimed as their heritage as well to form Israel.
Where is that call? Where is the call? That's the question.
What would I do without you, Karen? You know what's going on. Where are the cops? Can you imagine, like you said, Karen, the students and the parents that pay for their kids to go here and they're not going to have a graduation? This is sad.
Yeah, there's also a little bit of a triage center, not center, but a triage area where somebody, at least a couple people, were being treated by maybe some medics who might be in this crowd. You can see somebody being tended to right there, as a matter of fact, is one of the people that we saw here. This is on the opposite side of the first half of tents, kind of a couple hundred, about 100 yards away from the front of the that plywood wall. You can see more folks milling about here. Again, this is all in front of Royce Hall. If we pan back over to the right, you can see once again that lawn where most of those pro-Israeli protesters have been all day. And now you see it looks like they're a little more dispersed in the last few minutes.
It's complicated, but the bottom line, both groups claim Israel as their God-given heritage for thousands of years. Palestinians were booted off the land they lived on for generations. Israel. Okay.
I mean, essentially, I mean, unless something changes, it just seems like they're basically, hoping for the best because there's just no indication that
For the
uh,
best.
there's
Who is this
any
guy?
attempt,
That's
at least in the
funny.
short term, to change the status quo here. Now things are again at a little bit of a lull. There's a little bit of inactivity at the moment between the two sides. You still see some things being thrown on in either direction, but for the most part, things have calmed down temporarily. We'll see if that holds at all. But the trend this evening has been again cycles of calm followed by more taunting, agitating, and then more violence.
Even Israel's their country, but make it a country of Palestinians. They all can't live in tiny Gaza. I'm done.
You can kind of get a scale here, Mark, as we look up and down the barricade here on the pro-Palestinian side of things. You get an idea of just how large this crowd is. A bulk of the encampment has moved up to the front line. Not all of them, but a good bulk of them have. And you could see just how outnumbered the other side is here as they start to disperse a little bit. But they're not going home by any means. What I am seeing is they're kind of walking around the front lawn and picking up objects to almost stockpile on the other side here. It almost appears as though they're stockpiling makeshift weapons on the other side in case things flare up once again. That's what I'm witnessing as they walk around picking up umbrellas, picking up plywood, and picking up more sticks.
I'm not on either side. I'm on the US side. Let's do something. Stop this. We don't act like this. Or do we?
And the big question, I mean, is, what happens just thinking ahead here? It's hard to think about tomorrow when you're seeing all this, but what happens tomorrow at this campus? I mean, you have to imagine, we just continue to be shocked, but one would imagine that there will be a change in posture here, or at least there should be, as Tim mentioned earlier. Is this the last night of this encampment? And what is going to transpire at the break of dawn here when people wake up and make their way back to campus? I just can't even imagine if they continue this posture of hands-off approach
Did you see that? Did you see that?
without any law enforcement.
When he put the camera over here, I think I seen a police car. We would get away with this. Oh, hell no. We couldn't go to no other country like this and do this. No, 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 no. Absolutely not. Ultimately, don't want us involved at all. No, we shouldn't be at all. Okay, yeah, there's a cop car over here, but yeah.
Where do you draw the line? That's the question, right? I mean, I guess it's the $1 million question, but where do they draw the line here? It seems like things are already unacceptable. However, these administrators are very accepting of what we're seeing.
Look at that mess. Who's going to clean that up? Bet they're not. See, is that a cop car there? Or not? Where's the US flag at? Do you see the US flag? I don't.
It's right.
Why are they standing there? Well, yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of them compared to them, but
Yeah, I mean, again, we're just kind of continuing to keep an eye on this group here. Even as you mentioned, I mean, I don't expect that the posture amongst that group will change. They have no shields, no defense at their fingertips there. So, I mean, you can understand why they're being told to stand by because, as you say, they are outnumbered. But if LAPD is standing by and waiting to assist here, why is that call for mutual aid not being put out? Where are the LAPD? Why is that call not being put out? In the meantime, we're just going to continue to see more things being thrown in both directions here, right over that barricade. We're seeing more objects being thrown and some of the debris that is littering the quad there is being used as flying projectiles. Yeah, it looks like a woman just standing with her, she's just again, just kind of, arms wide open, almost as a, sign of martyrdom, to kind of like, try me, kind of testing them, taunting them, kind of provoking it almost. But I mean, again, there's been provocation on both sides, to be clear.
Cops didn't sign up for this. They don't respect our laws. That's why they're doing this.
Now it looks like a larger contingent of students and counter protesters, kind of a flurry of activity as a good bulk of them start to move across Portola Plaza. Go ahead and widen out really quick, Rob, and just see if the main body of counter protesters is still there, or have most of them now backed off. Go right back in there, push into the middle, and see if it looks like a bulk of them are starting to retreat down the block here. I'm not sure.
You're welcome.
I'm not sure why. But some of them were running. Now a lot of them are walking, but they appear to be almost marching in a certain direction. You see somebody with a megaphone there. Just kind of pan back, if you could, just really quick. Let's pan back over to the wall. I just want to see the front of the lawn there. You can see a lot less people now near that makeshift wall. So a good bulk of the pro-Israeli protesters have now retreated to the other side of the courtyard and are now marching in the opposite direction. So it looks like we might see, an extended period of calm here, as long as these two sides stay separated.
Okay, guys, I'll be right back. I got to go make a pot of coffee. Hold on.
There's real questions there. Real big questions. If they called for aid, where is it? Yeah. Nobody came. Right. I mean, it should be said that LAPD has essentially denied that at this point. They are basically saying that they have not been called. They are standing by and in communication with the police, but there is no mutual aid en route. Yeah. 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 Yep.
Karen,
So
good.
I should say that a good bulk did walk around the block and almost continue demonstrating down the block on an empty UCLA campus, other than this quad here. However, there remains several dozen, if not close to 100 people, still very close to the front of the lawn there on the opposite side of the makeshift wall. Things have been peaceful for about the last 10 minutes. I say peaceful cautiously, because there has been exceptions of violence and some stick throwing and that kind of thing. But for the most part, we haven't seen major confrontation, anything close to like we did about 15 minutes ago in the last several minutes. It seems as though the crowd has thinned. The front crowd has moved back slightly, but they're not going anywhere. They're still, scattered across that front lawn there. So we'll see what transpires. They are using some of the barricades and plywood that they took from the encampment, and they're kind of stockpiling it in the middle of their own little makeshift wall there.
Good night, Karen. Get some sleep. Yes, Karen is a sweet girl. I've known her for a few years now. So just so you know, CNN is live, but I did start from the beginning because I wanted to see. Um, but I do have other things I pulled up. Something from Fox 11 in LA. What else did I pull up? What a nightmare. And then I also pulled up on Facebook. I mean, they're protesting everywhere. Protest at the Saint or Salt Lake City jail, county jail. Well, at least Boston did something. New York. Where else? Minnesota
They're on the way.
are doing things to stop this. Minnesota, though, they're used to this. Unfortunately, because of the George Floyd thing, so they know what to do now.
Well, that's great news, Mark, and certainly we'll have our eyes peeled. That tweet coming at 12:51. So hopefully in the next several minutes here, we'll see some law enforcement move into the area. Not a minute too soon, because you can see more violence breaking out here at the very corner of the quad, where there has been pockets of violence throughout the night. There's just an opportunity for the crowd to gather on both sides in that corner there, and another confrontation with some of the same agitators who have been kind of starting some of the more violent scuffles throughout the evening. The same players, it appears, are the ones throwing things and taunting the other side. So you can see a group that just ran away there, somebody on the opposing side with some more spray, water bottles being thrown in his direction, and you can see another confrontation brewing here on the northwest corner of the quad. No, not over yet at all by any means. More swatting, more umbrellas being used there. You see them consistently every time they ambush this wall, they try and walk away with more pieces of the wall. And that we're seeing it again. It's been going on really, the entire time we've been here. They're just slowly peeling away at the pallets and the plywood all night. You can see a lot of people there starting to gather again. They're on the corner, on both corners, quite frankly. And another protester going for some more pallets there, trying to again peel away at that wall, peel away the wood, peel away the pallets, and more stuff being thrown, sticks being thrown, a lot of remnants of 2x4s, basically littering that courtyard. And it almost appears as if the larger group that had walked away moments ago have kind of made their way back into the area, because this corner of the quad is definitely swelling, looking much more similar to about a half hour ago. About 20 minutes. About 20 minutes. We're gonna squeeze another 20 minutes out. Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Obviously, the pallets were a
Not
mistake.
quite yet, guys. Mark, I'm looking out the window here, and I'm literally we've all got our eyes peeled. I can't remember a time where I've so anxiously been looking for any sign of help as we look out across over a mile. I do see some flashing lights off in the distance. They appear to be responding to something else. We're looking around. We're using the camera as well as we peer through Westwood here, looking up and down these streets. Here come a group of West LA officers right here. They have parked in front of the popular Chick-fil-A in the center of Westwood. They are starting to gather and get into position. That would basically be the southwest corner of the UCLA campus. Finally, starting to see some response by LAPD gather on the southwest corner of the campus.
So, okay, this is my question. Can anybody answer? Who is the violent side here? Is it the Israel, pro-Israel, or whatever you call it, peoples?
I think they went in a different. They could be. It's very possible. Originally, the last time I saw them, they had actually gone in a separate direction. I think they are a separate group, but I can't say for sure. Ooh, look at that barricade! A large, heavy metal barricade tossed right onto. I mean, if it wasn't for the plywood, somebody would have gotten hit there. Show me that. Looks like some more violence breaking out at the barricade here. There also appears to be a fire alarm going off in the building adjacent to the quad here. That's part of the reason for the strobe. But you can see some more punches being thrown and some more scuffles breaking out right along the perimeter of that barricade as they try and peel away more plywood. You see people taking swipes at each other, taking swipes at the plywood and the pallets, and a lot more punches being thrown. The broom. It's the end of a broom, it looks like. Anything they could find, right. Somebody got sprayed, and now the person with the broom is beating him. Look at this. Sucker punches being thrown at the same person who was, I think somebody was trying to escort him away from the brawl, and he is being followed. He is being followed and taunted as he makes his way towards the end of the walkway here. There are equal parts protesters and news media in that shot right there, but you can see a lot of cameras and cameramen following this injured individual into the corner as they try and treat him. And you see a lot of flash bulbs going off there. There's a whole contingent of news media in the corner kind of following that injured person. Still looking across Westwood here, looking for any sign of flashing red and blues, Mark, and I just don't see them yet. I'm hopeful that they are on the way, but we just don't see them yet as we look around here, continuing to keep the nose camera on the dividing line there between the pro-Palestinians and the pro-Israelis who've been countering here for much of the afternoon into the evening. And you see it has turned into anarchy here on the quad in front of Royce Hall. A lot of sucker punches being thrown. We see occasionally folks getting beaten with various sticks and pieces of wood, anything that they can get their hands on being used as a weapon on both sides. The violence is clearly coming from both sides of that barricade. The taunting has been going on all evening on both sides. Both sides have been provoking each other, and the violence is continuing as they continue to chip away at that wall, one plywood board at a time. Yeah. I mean, more fights breaking out, umbrellas being pulled away, and somebody in the middle. There's a lone pro-Palestinian protester there on the bottom of that brawl. You can see him running through there. It's really, really tenuous down there. Somebody trying to break it up finally, but really not seeing any kind of coordination whatsoever. It is just scuffle after scuffle as they continue to try and get their hands on what remains of that wall. By tomorrow morning, this encampment is either going to be gone or somebody's going to have to make another trip to Home Depot because the plywood is starting to run out.
Okay, the commentator here, he's trying to be funny. Go to Home Depot. They're using all that wood for weapons now. Oh yeah, in Ohio too. They took control, as in law enforcement.
Once again, a good bulk of those counter protesters have retreated again. Uh, you know, pleasant to see, but unfortunately, it's the ebb and flow of things. They encounter they engage in these encounters, these confrontations. Violence breaks out. They retreat. They collect their weaponry, their makeshift weaponry. They collect their breath, and then they start approaching that barricade again. So it's a pattern that has clearly been established over the last 2 hours, and that pattern is continuing. Now, yet another metal barricade being pulled away here. So continuing to peel away at that wall, and now you see about 50 individuals once again, fists up, arms up, ready for a fight, approaching the wall once again. And here comes more fight, more things being thrown, more liquid, more pepper spray I saw there just a second ago, more projectiles, pallets being thrown, pull board being peeled away, and more liquid being tossed over that barricade.
Okay, guys, I was looking for an update here. Um, the police have arrived. Let's look at that. Hold on. Let me find it. Um,
It's unbelievable. It's truly astonishing. I can't help as I try and gather information on my phone here. The entire country is watching this at this late hour. If you are up on the East Coast, there's a good chance you are watching on social media.
Here we go, guys. The police finally showed up. Here we go. Here's live. Where is it? Where is it? Police live. Here we go. Here we go. Finally.
Oh, here comes CHP. They're moving in, closing the
Finally.
gap here.
Jeez.
So we'll stay up here, Tyler. Very methodically, CHP moving in to close the gap and move people out. Still no big arrest by CHP. I've seen them communicating with individuals and telling them to move along, but no arrest being seen so far. Again, CHP here, large contingency, backed up by LAPD. So you see the first skirmish line is CHP officers, and then right behind them is LAPD in there for support. And LAPD also with a large skirmish line holding the perimeter of the quad. So that way no people can come behind the initial skirmish line. They started out and stayed there for quite a while.
Yes, this is live right now. And the police finally
And now
arrived.
they're moving in and slowly closing the gap and letting the protesters move out.
Why is this blurry? Hold on a minute. There we go. That's better. Hi, Viper. How are you? Oh, wow. That's cool. Is there a video of it? Is there a recording of it? I would love to see that. Oh my God, it's on your channel? Awesome. Thank you. If you guys are not subbed up to Viper here, you need to. He is amazing. He fights for victims, exposes bad behavior. hold people accountable for their actions.
So as you can see, even CHP has now closed the gap a little bit, and now they're encountering some of the first groups that are not wanting to leave. So we'll see what happens here.
Oh, yes.
Still yet to see any arrests being made
Okay.
by CHP or LAPD.
Oh, here we
So
go.
this is the first kind of group I've seen them come up to where they're refusing to leave. And you can see CHP has kind of widened the gap, and they've closed in on certain areas just to try to clear it out. They've given people the opportunity to leave so far, have yet to see any arrest, but we'll see. This is kind of the first clash I've seen. So here we are, CHP moving in, and it's hard to right now. It's hard to decipher who's the news media, who's covering this, and who's actually still here protesting. You see a number of people from a number of outlets, or a number of people that are self-proclaimed media that are out here just on the scene with various camera types. And so now it's going to get interesting. CHP has to kind of identify who's who in the zoo, and they're tightening up their skirmish line to move in and push these people away. Oh, and here comes LAPD. They're kind of stepping in too. They've been here more just reinforcing CHP's skirmish line. And so you see CHP now, they've made a move where they've kind of tightened in, and now they're pushing everybody to the west end of the quad here. And more or less just clearing this whole quad area. And again, if you're just joining us live on ABC, we are at UCLA, where we're witnessing a clash between pro-Palestinian and pro-Israeli supporters here in the quad at UCLA. We have CHP and LAPD skirmish lines. They're on the scene trying to clear this area. Just hours ago, supporters from both sides were involved in a bit of a conflict between each other. As you can see, there's a line of tents here. This line of tents was actually created to make a division between the two groups. And there was a number of just plywood, whatever they could find. Plywood, I saw pallets, whatever can be used to create that division was set up here to have a division line or a wall between both groups. And they begin to be torn down by the opposition group. So they begin to come in and tear down pieces. That what they were doing is they were grabbing pieces and actually taking them away and putting them over here. And they were actually throwing them and trying to remove them. So it's interesting to see CHP has moved in now, peacefully removing a lot of the protesters. We've yet to see any arrest. We do see also LAPD with their contingency here moving in, and I haven't seen any acts of violence towards the police. The police department has been very diplomatic and coming in and moving the crowd. They've made a number of announcements saying, hey, leave or be arrested, leave or be arrested. And they're very slowly and methodically moving the protesters to an area where they're off the quad. So as you can see, CHP has made a corridor here where they're allowing people to leave peacefully. So they've made announcements. They've allowed people to leave along this corridor and exit the quad. So they've shut down most of the quad. They're closing it down and allowing people to leave along the west side of the quad there. So the number of people that were here earlier that were this is where quite the number was pushed to initially when CHP entered. They have now been allowed to walk away without being arrested through this corridor here that CHP and LAPD has created to exit the quad here. So we're seeing a lot of the members that were here. There's still a little bit of a contingency here. There's some conversations going on here in the middle between CHP and some of the pro-Palestinian protesters and pro-Israeli protesters, both on the same side here. You'll see both kind of intermix in here, but they are giving the disbursement order and asking people to leave peacefully. Still no arrest yet. And one thing we could say is since the law enforcement presence has been here, we have not seen the clash between the two groups. No longer are they trying to discombobulate this whole structure that they had here. They're not tearing it away and not running away. At that time, we saw the group throwing things at each other. There was a number of weapons being used to hit and throw at each other. We've not seen that since the law enforcement presence has arrived on scene. So that is good to see. Once again, you'll see CHP has a skirmish line. You'll see the supervisors walking along the back of the skirmish line, just keeping everybody informed, making sure everybody knows what's going on. You see for a minute there, it was quite a wide area that they were covering, and now they've begun to just kind of hone it down and get a little closer, and they are pushing everybody to the west side of the quad, where they're allowing them to leave through a corridor without being arrested. So again, so far, no arrests being made. LAPD, CHP, large contingency of officers here at UCLA in the quad. What are we looking like for fuel, Tyler? Got it. The mid gets there at 4, so I'm pretty sure they'll put them up, and then we'll be good. We'll be able to, yeah, we'll be able to shake and bake. That way we can go back and get Scott. Okay, here's CHP. Now again, moving forward a little bit, very methodical, very strategic, very poised. They are just pushing the group to the west side of the quad and closing in as they move in. They started across the whole quad and now basically have made a smaller and smaller circle as they get closer to clearing the quad. Also with the support of LAPD. See LAPD now moving in and backing up their initial line. So if I go back and look out here, there's still that contingency of LAPD officers holding the beginning of the quad. And here we are again, LAPD holding the contingency, and there we see it again. CHP very slowly and methodically just closing in on this group. So here we go again. There, we've seen a number of these conversations pop up amongst the groups, between both groups. And it seems like every time those conversations happen, it begins to more or less just disengage a lot of the members part, and they conversate and then move back. So what will happen here is we've seen it as this gets closer and closer. We're going to see most of the counter protesters or protesters be moved into an area where they're no longer going to be able to have a conflict with each other because they'll essentially be separated. And again, CHP moving in very methodically. But still giving everybody an out, still letting them walk along this corridor. You could see the line of CHP officers here that are not blocking the way out, so they're allowing people to leave. I'm looking at other areas of the quad where there's groups of individuals or people still camping. People are still in certain areas that aren't affected kind of by the clash between the two groups. And most of the people have just been here at the quad. And I see this is kind of where CHP has met their goal. They've cleared most of the quad. They're creating some separation in between each other to make sure they hold this line. And here you can see CHP is very tight here. They're almost like there's two groups sandwiched in between each other, and they're trying to get in there. And CHP is making a positive push. They're taking the steps, and they're pushing this group away from each other. And you can see the makeshift barriers that I spoke about earlier that were being torn down. And their goal was to clear the quad, and they're making that goal effective at this point. And here we are again, CHP, LAPD, all on standby here. And from the time when we got here earlier, there were just basically little sporadic moments of violence where people were fighting, and that's at least stopped since the show of force has happened. We haven't seen that same little bit of violence erupt here. They're just very methodically pushing this remaining group out of the quad area and trying to get them to disperse to create some period of separation between the two groups to stop the fighting between the two. And again, if you're just joining us, this is live coverage of UCLA. CHP and LAPD now intervening in the protests that were happening on the campus of UCLA, both between groups of pro-Palestinian and pro-Israeli groups that erupted in violence earlier tonight, and a show of force between CHP and LAPD has kind of quelled that violence, and they are now creating some separation between the two groups to stop the fighting that was occurring. And we've gotten to a point here where they've pushed this group of demonstrators into this corner, and they're trying to get them to disperse along this corridor here. And some of them are still just maintaining where they want to stay. Let's push a little bit to the west, Tyler, just so I can see both ends of this here. Just a tiny bit here, thank you. Yeah, that's good. I just wanted to see what we were looking at on the other end here. Still see LAPD, still have CHP, and they're still maintaining that corridor where they're letting people walk out. Yeah, they confirmed they'll be there at 4. Got it. We'll be all set. Yeah, we should have enough fuel for that. The big question here is you see LAPD and CHP removing a group of the protests, but the elephant in the room going to be, what are they going to do with this encampment? How are they going to handle that? I don't anticipate them removing this entrenched encampment throughout the morning. So we're going to have to see what's going to happen with the number of tents here that are going to remain on the campus and the plan later on to remove that. I anticipate a long morning ahead of us, at least for now, with separation of the two groups. The violence or the clashes between them has stopped, and so that's great to see. Still no arrest, and still CHP doing what they're doing here is just pushing the group further and further off the quad. Got it. Well, here comes another group of CHP officers to reinforce that first group. They're moving around a little bit, and they're going to come and actually push the rest of this group. Is their plan? They're trying to push this group out peacefully to separate the two groups. And just a quick look, we still see a number of law enforcement officers continuing to pour in. As I mentioned before, LAPD, CHP, and also LA County sheriffs. And the LA County sheriffs have a contingency, but it seems like they are just waiting to make sure and see what is going to happen with the current situation. We see a big force of LAPD officers more or less just supporting the CHP effort at this point. And there's also a mix of UCLA's public safety department in there as well. So large law enforcement presence. You see them now. There's a number of strategy missions going on and talking, and they are just trying to resolve this as peacefully as possible. Here again, another group of CHP officers being deployed near the front of the line here. Okay, here's CHP's pushing through and now moving people throughout to try to push them out of this area. You can see a large group that was standing there kind of just waiting, now exiting the quad area. CHP just strengthening their lines here. Still no arrest scene. You still see a number of supporters or number of this group still on this side of the tents. And remember, they've created a makeshift barrier in between here with plywood and barriers and pallets. So the barrier still stands. It was in the about an hour ago or so, there was a number of pieces of that barrier that were being torn away or torn down, and there was a number of counter protesters or protesters taking them over here and dumping it and just trying to break down the barrier as much as they could. However, that has now stopped since the presence of law enforcement has arrived on scene and the clashes between the two groups have stopped. So the entrenched encampment, the pro-Palestinian side of this event, is still here. They're still on this side with a number of tents and a number of, they basically fortified their area, you could see, with pallets and just anything that could be found. And here we have CHP closing out the gap, like mentioned before. They're letting people disperse on their own through this corridor, and now they've circled the gap. They've come all the way down. They've cleared the quad, and now they're pushing people back to the south to just clear the quad altogether. They've also have a line or a skirmish line, a contingency blocking off the entrances back into the quad. So we've seen CHP methodically come through this quad and hold their line. Very peaceful, no arrests being made, no clashes between the law enforcement officers and protesters. They're just very slowly pushing people out of the quad and separating the two groups. Yeah, perfect. See a number of CHP and LAPD officers still continuing to move in groups. You could see they were prepared to make arrests. Those big white bundles you see at their waist are plastic handcuffs used often in these situations. Here they are just pushing that group through the quad and backfilling and supporting, just keeping it closed down. Copy that, and just been told by the booth that if you're joining us here live on ABC 7 and ABC streaming channels, on the right side of your screen you see a live ground shot courtesy of Reuters, and on the left side of the screen you see us up here in Air 7 with continuous coverage over the situation unfolding at UCLA. LAPD and CHP officers doing the best they can to disperse the two entities or separate the two crowds of protesters from each other as peacefully as they can. And just as they come around, we'll give them a couple minutes. They're being blocked on my shot by a tree, but we will shortly come in and see where CHP's goal was to enter the quad and peacefully use the skirmish line just to push the protesters out of the quad. As I said earlier, you see a line of officers lining this walkway here. They're using this walkway as an exit to the quad, and they're slowly but surely just pushing the protesters out of the quad along that way so they could set a space or area between the two protesters. Yeah, perfect. Yep. And we're going to move around. Little weather coming in here. Big thanks to my pilot, Tyler, doing a great job early here. Thanks for joining us. And as before mentioned, here's the CHP skirmish line. And this is the last group of pro-Israeli protesters that were on this side, that they're just making space between the two groups. And you can see very slowly but methodically, CHP has done an excellent job of just maintaining the peace and just moving people out of the way rather than any signs of force or any signs of people getting arrested. It's more just create space between the two groups to stop any of the conflict that was happening between the two groups. And here's a good shot of what I was talking about earlier. Here's the makeshift barrier that was created with all types of different construction materials, pallets, There's a number of just stanchions there, plywood material, whatever can be found that was utilized to create a barrier between the two groups. That was just being picked up and thrown earlier, well, just a couple hours ago when we were seeing this live on ABC, and we had coverage of the two groups that actually erupted in a bit of conflict and violence between the two. And you see a mix of CHP and UCLA PD or UCLA public safety members down there. There was a question that came about earlier, why the CHP? UCLA is a state school, so ultimate law enforcement or authority will fall in lines for the CHP. And so that's why you see CHP active on the campus. But they are being supported by LAPD. You'll see LAPDs down here in the black uniforms, CHP wearing the tan uniforms. And the LAPD has a big force of uniformed personnel here supporting the CHP efforts as the CHP continues to clear this area. Once again, this is the last piece of the contingency that was left on the quad, and CHP has met their goal. Initially, when we first got on scene, we came on a few hours ago just to try to keep with this continuous coverage. There was a clash here where the two groups met, and since then, CHP has come in and created the space on the quad in between the two groups, and essentially just escorted the group out and created a barrier between the two to stop any forms of violence. And now you can see LAPD contingency right behind them and just reinforcing those skirmish lines to make sure that everybody is just moving out here. Again, let me show you the number of law enforcement officers that are here at UCLA is quite impressive. And just as I said that, you could see in our ground shot just there was some shots of those actual ground units that were lined up along the outskirts here. And you see a big contingency of officers. The officer you just saw on your right-hand screen with less lethal force, none of that has been used here. Yet to see any tear gas or any forms of crowd control measures, anything like that. It's just been a series of movement of people through a show of force. And as you can see, LAPD has now reinforced that skirmish line, and they have kept the people out of the quad. And CHP is now falling back and reconciling their units to see where they could be to push the people out of the quad area. And now LAPD has reinforced that line, and now everybody has exited the quad as that was their plan from the start tonight, to just try to create some space and create some peace in between the two groups. I got it. It'll probably be a clean handoff. They'll get up at 4, and then right when they come, so we should be able to. We'll try to hold out until we just flip flop. Yeah, it's right over Hollywood. So kind of like K-Joy. Yeah. And back with us out here live at UCLA, you could see still what CHP has done is cleared the quad of all protesters on this side. This was the pro-Israeli side. The pro-Palestinian side of this conflict or this protest are encamped in these tents here. And you see a contingency of LAPD holding down one side of the quad. You see LAPD and CHP holding down the other side of the quad. The goal was to come in and clear this quad area to stop the conflict between the two groups. And we've watched that methodically happen over the last hour. The last group of people we see still here are in this corner where they're still kind of in discussion. LAPD has reinforced this area, CHP has pulled back, but still a large contingency of officers from CHP, LAPD, as well as UCLA's public safety department. And you see a number of people just chanting and talking still, but no arrests that we've seen yet. The officers were all here, ready to go, and we have yet to see any arrests. And still a large contingency of officers off camera that we've seen preparing to come in just in case they were needed. Yeah, I think we could stay here for that. What do you think, Tyler? About 15 minutes on station? Yeah, about 15 minutes on station we could do from now. So about 4:05, we'll need to start walking out. And here you see, like mentioned in the tan, these are CHP officers. They're now reinforcing the line behind LAPD as well. And they're just keeping people out of this quad. Yeah, go ahead. We could save a little fuel. We're still the only ones here. Live continuous coverage. As we get closer to the morning, I've seen a lot more activity here in the encampment. They actually have food set up. They're heavily entrenched in there, so you see a lot more movement going on that side, and you see this area just now completely clear. And excuse us as we orbit through this little bit of fog here, a little bit of marine layer coming on here to the Westwood area. On very interesting. Now we see the main line of officers. Basically, they're now rotating. I hear them on their frequency here, where they're going to now CHP will step in, give the LAPD officers a bit of a break or a breather, and so you're going to see this rotate through with a number of these officers that are holding these skirmish lines. So you saw LAPD now walking back and taking a break while CHP moved in to support and fill those positions, just holding this whole quad area. And again, showing you here's a number of the building materials that were stripped away from that area in between where people were at earlier. And all those building materials were being grabbed and picked up and taken back to an area. So you could see initially this was highly fortified with a number of building materials. It has since been torn down in a number of areas in an attempt to break this barrier between the two groups. So majority of it's still up and still in place. And there we see, again, LAPD contingency just holding all access to this quad from anybody entering. You can keep it a little bit wider, Tyler. Got it. Still streaming, and we'll be live at the top of the floor. Got it. Got it. And those of you still with us here, all of our streaming platforms on ABC, we're still here with live continuous coverage over UCLA. We're getting into our 4 o'clock hour. We'll be live on ABC and abc.com. So thank you for staying with us, and we'll be with you back live on TV. Let's try to get back over there a little quicker, just because we're going to be live in a minute or so. And, Copy. Good right now. Just hold it till they come off this story, and then we'll jam. Gabe, we're gonna head back to Van Nuys for fuel.
Okay, here they go. Okay, they're done. All right. Well, it looks like they got control of this now. So I'm gonna go for now, but I'll see you guys later. Bye.